We read in the beginning of Chokosai that if we follow the statutes of the Torah, we act as Hashem wants us to, Hashem concludes, Ani Hashem Elokechem, Asher Otzeisi Eschem Eretz Yisrael Mios Lohem Avodim, Veshbo Motus Ulchem, Volech Eschem Komius. I'll break the yokes on your backs, and I will take you Komius in an upright position. So over here, the Balaturim points out, Mi'imchu Kosai at Komius. If you take a look at the letters from the beginning of the parsha until this is the end of the brachos, which is Komius, Kol Aleph Beis Chutz Misamchu Pei. You find all the letters of the Aleph Beis except for the letters Samach and Pei. V'chein V'yitein L'cho. In the portion of V'yitein L'cho, the bracha that Yitzchak Avinu had given to Yaakov, all the letters of the Aleph Beis except for the letters Samach and Pei. Choseh Samachu Pei. Kein Soton V'lo Af V'ketzef V'anaf B'vrachos Elo. Samach alludes to Soton. Soton is prosecution. If there's prosecution, there's no bracha. So what is the Torah telling us? If a Jew is fully committed to Torah, the Sultan is totally incapacitated. There's no basis for prosecution, and therefore the rains will come that time. The bounty will be unlimited, so on and so forth. And there's no ketzef, there's no wrath, because the wrath is a direct outgrowth of prosecution of the Soton. So again, Rashi over there, when Yitzchak gave the bracha to Yaakov, he said, Elokim. Elokim is midas adin, that the Jew has to toe the line. You have to behave, and you have to live in conformance with the Torah. That's Elokim. And if you don't, we have the brunt of midas adin, of the attribute of justice, which is not the case by the nations of the world, because there, if Hashem would punish them, since they don't process it properly, they put it in a context that God is cruel, and they have a claim against God. But the Jew, when he's punished, he realizes that the fault lies with himself, and therefore he does tshuva. Therefore, v'yitin l'cha Elokim. So when v'yitin l'cha Elokim, if there's a corresponding factor, and we saw, as we find over here, that Samach and Pei are not there, Imchu Kusai Til Komius, because what is it dependent upon? It's only because of Barosi Yitzor, Barosi Torah Tavlin, is because the Torah is that ultimate spiritual component, part of our essence, which incapacitates Soton. It silences prosecution. Identically, what are you worthy of the bracha of Yitin L'cho when it doesn't contain the Samach and the Pei? And when is that? When you live as a Jew, when there's no basis for the prosecution. But if you don't, chas v'sholem, then it's a problem. We had mentioned a medrash. The medrash says in this week's parsha, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe Rabbeinu that as long as you people behave and you observe the Torah, I will not allow Satan or the Malach HaMavos to touch you. But if not, he will come upon you. What does that mean? It means exactly what we're saying now. If you have the Torah, Satan is silenced. There's no basis for prosecution whatsoever. But if you don't learn Torah, then there's a basis for prosecution. Why? This is similar, as the Chofetz Chaim cites the Zohar in the introduction to Chofetz Chaim, that whenever Satan wants to speak against the Jews and prosecute them, Hashem says, the Jews are my children. I don't want to hear you saying anything negative about my children. And he shuns them and he silences them. But what about when the Jews speak about themselves, one another? We speak negatively where it's not within a constructive context. So Satan comes to Hashem and says, look the way they speak about one another. It has no constructive value. So therefore, if they speak about one another, why shouldn't I be able to come and speak negatively of where I do have a basis that they should be prosecuted? So again, if we have Torah, there is no basis for prosecution. He's incapacitated, he's silenced. But if we don't have, then we're vulnerable to him. Why? Because we're vulnerable to what? To his temptations. He draws us in. And this is really the concept. Im lomadata Torah but me'oni, you're going to learn it me'osher. But if you mevatel Torah, miosher, Hashem says, I gave you the wealth. You don't invest it properly in Torah, you're going to be mevatel me only because there's a prosecution. It was all given to you for a reason. If you don't actually utilize it properly, I withdraw it. The same thing with our lives. We're given our lives for one reason. Why were the Jewish people created? L'chlodi barosif. You were created for my glory, for my honor. But if the Jew doesn't live with that objective, with that perspective, then Satan has a basis to prosecute. So the only way Hashem has His glory and that special honor, that's only if it's b'chukosai telechu.